We're not allowed, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Lynn. Good evening, councillors, and welcome to Colne District Committee's meeting for Thursday, the 8th of October. Welcome to you all, and welcome to any members of the public that may be watching live streaming. Just to advise you, for some reason, the version I have of Teams now just has one picture on it. So if anybody wishes to speak, unless you put your hand up, so I can see it on the people in the meeting at the side of the screen, I won't know that you're there. So you will have to actually talk for me to hear you, because I can't see you. With that said, we'll proceed and see how we go. So does anybody have any declarations of interest?
I haven't a declaration of interest, Chairman, but can I give apologies for Alice Mann? Yeah,
sure. Thank you.
Chair?
Yeah.
Can I give apologies for Neil Butterworth, please?
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Item 3 now is the minutes of the last meeting. Would somebody be prepared to propose those? Sarah Coburn-Price?
I'll happily propose them.
Thank you, Sarah. Jonathan?
Yeah, I'll second them, Chair.
Okay. Is everybody in favour? If I hear nothing, I will assume that we are all unanimously in favour. Nothing heard, so that's okay. Next up is the progress report. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I see no hands up, so I'm going to move on. Is that correct? Okay, Lynn, is the police PCSO in attendance? I can't see on the meeting.
No, she isn't.
Okay, well, we'll go past that item then. If she does turn up, if you like to let me know if I don't see it, and we'll call her in at that stage.
Okay, yes, that's fine.
Okay, because you were expecting her, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're okay with that, councillors, I'll park police issues for the time being. I will come back to it if we don't see anything of the PCSO, but I understand that Natasha Harris was due to attend. So planning applications, there are none on this agenda.
Graham?
Yep.
Dorothy Lord had an actual physical hand up.
Hi, Dot.
Sorry, I was muted. The police didn't turn up last night at the Crown and Safety Partnership meeting for the reason that they can't get onto the Teams thing. So if that's the same tonight, they really do need to get a grip with this. Being a police force, I mean, I'm here. So they may turn up. Thank you.
Okay, I've got Sarah wanted to speak.
Actually, Jerry told me this morning that Natasha Harris was sitting in the lobby. As you know, those of you who were there last night, I was only there for half an hour, and I admitted several people, Margaret, Kevin McNulty, various people. I could see who was in the lobby, and I didn't see Natasha Harris when I left at 6:30. So it's a mystery. Oh, wait a second, what's this? Has something come up?
They
attended West Craven.
West Craven.
Well, yeah, so she claims to have been in the lobby. Jerry couldn't see her, nobody admitted her, and that was the thing last night. Apparently she waited for ages.
Okay, well, I can't see anything. If everybody keeps an eye out, if we see her, we'll bring her in. So if you're happy with that, I'll park the police issues in case we end up in a long discussion, which we then have to repeat if she turns up. So we'll do that at the end if that's okay. So we've done planning applications, so we're now on enforcement. Anyone, any comments or questions? Sarah Coburn-Price?
I hope I don't make you sad, Neil. May I ask about the latest news of Langroyd Hall?
Thank you, Chairman. We have been discussing with them, them commencing work and then clearing any planning obstacles with that. So certainly their agents are discussing with us to try and get on site and do the works imminently. Although I haven't got a definite start date, they certainly are pushing us to clarify any outstanding issues on their behalf so they can get on site. So that's a good sign.
Oh, that's excellent news. And I don't know whether you're aware, whether you have been copied into the emails. Some of the residents of Faverdale are anxious about the fact that the temporary fencing has been removed from the lower rough. And obviously there aren't any trees or bushes at the moment. So there is at the moment a void, and they're feeling terribly vulnerable with, like people above them living their lives and no actual fencing. Now, I looked at the phased plan. I see that obviously planting is on its way and there's going to be fencing in front of the planting to protect it. But I'm uncertain that I seem to remember that there was a thing that we were going to have wooden fencing on the other side of the cycle track.
Sorry, Chairman, we've swapped from Langroyd obviously to Windermere now. So it threw me for a second that. Yes, it's ranch style fencing, so it's not a full fencing that was going to be there. The phasing plan agrees that each phase will be completed before another phase is. They haven't reached the time when they have to complete their phasing plan. That was the end of November for phase 1. So we've no powers at this stage to say you haven't completed that phasing. In terms of site security, unfortunately, it's not building control. It's the health and safety executive whilst there is an operating site.
Oh, that's very helpful. I'll pass that on about the end of November, and it's not so long away, and hopefully the residents will at least have that to look forward to.
Can I go back to Langroyd?
Yes, please, Councillor Greaves.
Thank you. Mr. Watson said that the agents, is the agent the same as the developer?
No, Chairman, it's their planning and development agents. Catherine has been mainly dealing with them, but they're not the one and the same now.
No, but the same developer is still involved on behalf of the owners. Is that correct?
As far as I'm concerned, yes, Chairman.
Right. Well, Mr. Watson said the agents had been pressing the council for things. That sounds as though there might be some delay because the council is not responding fast enough to the things that they're pressing. Perhaps Mr. Watson would like to comment on that.
Chairman, it was more them wanting to clarify that they wouldn't get in trouble if they started and clarifying the conditions. So there's nothing that I am aware of from our perspective which is holding it up in terms of Pendle.
I don't think they're going to get into trouble for starting, are they? Are they? So do we have any idea at all when they might be ready to start? They've got to start. Well, I go back to remembering that when we gave planning permission, the developers, who I think were present, promised, I'm a bit confused about agents and developers now, but certainly when we went on that site visit, the developers were there and they promised that they would start within a month on the roof if they got permission, and clearly they haven't done that. They have to comply with the terms of the enforcement action that was taken by starting that before Christmas, don't they? Is it starting it or finishing it before Christmas?
It's finishing it. It's that they have to replace the roof, so it's not just starting that. They have to actually do that.
So if they're going to do that and allowing for the fact that weather in November and December isn't wonderful, they ought to be getting on with it now.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yes, I fully agree.
So is there anything we can do to jolly them along to help?
Through you, Chairman, the enforcement notice was the most powerful thing, and if they don't do that, there's up to £20,000 worth of fines and continuing fines thereafter. So that is their end game. I understood that they hadn't quite, whether they've completed this in the last couple of weeks, I would have to check, got the license for the bats, and they were just agreeing that, Chairman. That's what I understand is possibly one of the holding points for them. They need a license from DEFRA.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I have nobody else indicating they wish to speak. I'll wait a few minutes for you to think about that. Okay, moving on then. Item 8, National Planning Reform. The report is attached. Does anyone any questions? Sarah?
Obviously, this came to P&R, and I just wanted to check. I read the minutes at P&R. I made a point then, and I don't see it reflected in the sort of formal response, which is really talking about first homes. I think my point at P&R was accepted. The government appears to believe that first homes are new homes, and in fact, in Pendle, with viabilities the way they are, first homes are usually terraced houses in the town. And so we have that affordability. And I just sort of pointed out that, in fact, the rebuilding costs of most Pendle homes are more than their actual value, which makes us not unique in the north of England, but certainly unusual. And that viability and the connection with first homes is something that we perhaps need to reflect. And I was thinking that we need to reflect it on, wait a second, page question 8. I think it probably should go in there.
Through you, Chairman, I think you've got the version that went to P&R. We then amended that, so we were careful to include the additional comments which P&R wanted to go in. So the final version does have reference to that, Chairman.
Good. Is that okay, Sarah? Councillor Coburn-Price, you happy with that?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I was nodding pointlessly.
So unfortunately, I can't see you.
Well, you can't hear her if she's just nodding. How can you hear her nodding? Yeah, can I say, Chair, I've just been looking at this. I think what's there is right. I think it's okay.
I think Graham's connection's dropped.
Oh, I can't hear anything now. Perhaps whether we nod or not, he can't see us, he can't hear us.
He's back.
Right,
He's
there
back.
you are. Hi. Councillor Greaves?
Well, I've been talking away while you've not been here, Graham, so yes, you don't need to hear it.
Okay.
I was just teasing you and Councillor Coburn-Price, but it's all right.
I look like I need a good tease, I'm sure. Okay, anybody else got anything else to say? No? Okay, then we'll move on to the capital programme. Anybody? It's all there. Any questions? Okay, going to move on again then. Traffic liaison meeting, item 10. Councillor Price.
I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet about those lights at the bottom of Langroyd that go onto the North Valley, and I keep reporting it to Scott Worley and Sandra Farnell, and then I read these minutes, and weirdly, it's never mentioned. And I think that most of you will agree with me that if you're sitting at traffic lights there, it's a very short traffic light time at Langroyd for a reason, and then about 6 cars come through on red. It's actually really dangerous. We should either do something about it by putting a camera there, or well, no, I just think that really, rather than change the time, because we must keep the traffic flowing. But it's never discussed at this meeting, and I keep reporting it for this meeting.
Okay. Anyone like to comment? Jonathan.
Thank you. I just wonder whether the timing of those particular traffic lights may be altered with the work that's going on at the end of Ivory Way. Well, the work that's going on Ivory Way. I wonder whether it's part of the grander scheme. Maybe, because I do agree with you. You can be you can just come out of Sainsbury's, sat at the red light, looking to turn left, and there's 3 or 4 cars who have gone through on green, but it's turned, and they're stuck there. You turn green, but you can't get in.
Okay.
Chairman, I don't know whether you can see my. Oh, sorry, Councillor Lloyd. Sorry, apologies.
Yeah. I remember this very conversation about 10 years ago, the same problem. So I don't know, because I don't drive. Is it the same continuous problem, or is it something different? I don't know. But there's always been a discussion about those lights at the bottom of Langroyd.
Doc, can I just throw something else in the pot?
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that they spent some considerable money tuning the traffic lights in that area to get better traffic flow? And that was about 18 months ago. I think the scheme cost several £100,000. Is that correct? Does anybody know?
Chairman,
I'm not sure. I think David, Councillor Clegg will probably know.
Chairman.
Yeah.
So it was conditioned as part of several planning applications that they would link via this what they call this mover, which is a traffic light. It maximises flows through there. So, Chairman, there was money given over to that, and my understanding is that has been implemented throughout the whole of the North Valley Ivory Way route.
Okay. Yeah, I thought there had been something. Right, I've got Councillor Clegg there. Can you? No.
Yes, Chairman.
Sorry.
Chairman.
Yeah, please, David. Go ahead.
Some of you may already know this. I don't know just how wide this knowledge has gone yet, but about 2 months ago, Lancashire County Council approached Colne Town Council, and they discussed the work that they were going to do on North Valley and Ivory Way, which comes to the retiming of the traffic lights and changing several lane markings, etc. And what they actually contacted Town Council for was, they have asked, we have quite a lot of CCTV on North Valley. We've got 3 360-degree cameras, and they've actually asked if we will allow them to link into our 3 CCTV cameras down there, so that they can monitor the lights when this scheme is finished from Preston, and they will be able to tweak the timings on the lights and alter them and change them to what they want from Saturday Desk in Preston. And that's the only thing I can tell you that's concrete about the lights. They are going to link into our CCTV so that they can actually monitor it from Preston. And if they think they're too long or too short, they'll be able to adjust it from sat at a desk at a computer in Preston.
David, when you say LCC, who actually, do you have a name? Who contacted you?
Oh, I can't remember his name. He contacted the clerk.
Okay.
And we discussed it and decided whether we thought it needed to go to committee. There was no cost for it or anything, so we decided to just let them do it.
Okay.
And let them have the footage.
Okay. I've got Councillor Coburn-Price wishing to talk. Sarah?
Just very briefly, I wasn't actually cross about the timing of the lights. It's been explained to me that has been set to increase the traffic flows. And I did know about the CCTV, David, but I'm not at all sure that our CCTV would capture you if you went through a red light on Langroyd. Perhaps you could clarify, because I think that's where the problem lies. There are these people, they get so frustrated, they're queuing down Langroyd, and then they're just determined, and it is really dangerous. I think it is a danger. So moving away from traffic flows or efficiency, I actually just think that's a danger.
Okay. Councillor Lord. Oh, sorry. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Chair. Just the historical stuff. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear these things that keep going on my computer. If you can, I apologise, but I'm waiting to abandon you for a short period of time and go and cast my vote in the House of Lords and then come back to you. These weird things we do nowadays. So if I disappear, that's why. My recollection is that there were two planning applications which were linked together to provide the money for doing whatever was to be done from Byron Road right through to the motorway roundabout. One was, I think, Lidl, and my understanding is that whatever they had to pay to open up that side, and the work for that has been carried out and it's been paid. The other one was the proposed new garden centre at Boundary Mill on the corner of White Walls Drive and the motorway. And as we know, that never went ahead. So quite a bit of the work that was associated with that will not take place now. But my understanding is that the work that's now being done for this £1 million the county's spending is the county coming in behind all that and doing some of the work which was due to happen quite some time ago, along with the Lidl stuff. So I think I don't know about the linking the traffic lights, but the work which was to take place at the Langroyd end of the North Valley has already been done. And there may be some better organisation of the lights and linking them together, I don't know. But I think historically, I think that's what happened, which is why it's taking so long.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I think the issue then, if I've understood correctly, is that Sarah is still saying that she thinks people skipping the lights is dangerous and it's a potential accident waiting to happen. If that is the case, are we as a group prepared to write to Sandra Fennell to ask her to bring this up at the next liaison meeting? So could you indicate by putting your hands up if you think that is a good idea? Okay, so I look like I've got a majority there for that idea. Anybody actually against it? Okay, Sarah, would you like to liaise with Lynn about the actual wording?
Happily.
Okay, so Lynn, if we could write to, it's probably best to write to Sandra, isn't it? And ask her to put it forward to the liaison meeting.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, everybody happy with that? Next up then is the item 11, tackling contamination in recycled bins. The report is there. I don't know whether anyone's any comments they wish to make. I think it's fairly straightforward. I have nobody indicating to speak. All right, Jonathan.
Graham, thanks. This was actually at Policy and Resources, but I missed the meeting, and I was actually I did really read this with interest, and I was fairly gutted that I missed it. I know it seems like a fairly boring topic, but if you actually read what is mentioned, it is concerning. Committee meeting that night might recall if anything was mentioned about that particular item on that piece. About they might actually go to landfill rather than is recycled.
Floor's open to anyone who wishes to comment, please.
Chairman, I can probably make a few comments, which I did at Policy and Resources actually. All the district councils in Lancashire have this problem to some degree, but I think Pendle is either the worst or not very far off the worst for this problem. And I can fully see where Lancashire County Council's problem with it is if the brown bin, for instance, is contaminated, it's actually cheaper to pay the landfill costs to dump the whole lot in landfill than what it is to pay a team of guys to go through it with litter picking sticks and pick out what shouldn't be in. And the reason why they're not doing that is really a financial cost, because it is cheaper to landfill it and pay the cost for landfill and pay the tax on it than what it is to employ someone to split it out. And the only answer is, at the end of the day, and I don't know how they're going to do it, because it's down to education really, is to stop people from putting it in there in the first place. And there's no other answer to it. It's too expensive to get it out. The trouble is if you had a lot of, I'm not saying you do put wrong stuff in your bin, Graham, but if you did put the wrong stuff in your bin and one or two other people on that round did, it not only is your contamination in your bin that is the problem, it contaminates the whole vehicle full.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, David, thank you for that. Councillor Lord.
Yeah, David mentions education, and I think, well, that's absolutely right. But I think where this could start is in primary schools, where I don't know whether they seem to take this kind of thing on board better than the older kids, or certainly not the infants, but primary schools, who will go home and tell the mum, you can't put that in there. They've told us at school. You know, now if a programme like that could be set up, where somebody could be employed to go around to the primary schools in Pendle and talk about this, you know, in a simple way but effective way, that might work from an education side of it.
Yep, that sounds like a very good idea. Get the children nagging their parents, you might get somewhere.
This is what they do. They do that age, you know. Mum, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah. Could see that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Doc. Councillor Greaves. Councillor Greaves, you got your hand up?
I'm not now. I'm not muted now. I was just wondering whether, I mean, I don't know much about this. What's the main problem? Is the main problem wrong sorts of plastic, or is it all sorts of stuff? Is it people just chucking stuff in, or actually getting stuff chucked in the bin when they're being put out? Because in areas which have got communal collection areas where you get loads of bins from different houses, it's easy enough for people just to chuck stuff away without the people who own those actual bins knowing it's happening.
On your second point, councillor, I don't know the answer. On your first point, according to the report, it's people putting the wrong stuff in, such as dog waste, the wrong sort of paper, contaminated plastics. That's what I understood from the report. So I think possibly what you say on the second part, I don't know the answer.
I mean, I don't know how complicated the plastics thing is. I mean, I know that I never know whether I can chuck plastic out or not. I have to ask somebody else in the house who claims to know. But it's not straightforward, is it? Because some plastic can't go in. Yeah. And I don't understand which is which.
Yeah. So again, I suppose we're down to education. How far we can go with that, I don't know.
I'm willing to be educated.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Margaret and Paul?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think the idea of education is definitely key. Certainly, I find it confusing, and I know I've spoken to quite a number of people on this, not just within Pendle, but elsewhere as well, and particularly with plastics, as Tony's just said. It's very complicated and confusing, and I believe it actually varies between different areas as to what you can and can't put in, which adds to the confusion. I have a suggestion. It has a cost, but I'm thinking surely the point at which you are making the decision, do I throw this in this bin or not, is when you're at the bin. If a bin had a sticker on the lid that says, do not put this, and this in the bin, that would be an enormous help, as long as it was accurate and clear information. Now, I know that would be a cost, but you know, that could be achieved by the team slapping stickers on as they go round on a round or something like that on the actual lids of the relevant bins. But yeah, it has a cost, but it's just a suggestion, because that's at the point of disposal. It's not, you know, something that's a leaflet that you receive. You know, we do receive leaflets and it says you can put this in, you can't do it. And that gets put somewhere and you've not got it when you need it, which is when you're lifting your bin lid and trying to decide, does this go in here or does this go to landfill?
Okay, thank you for that. Jonathan, do you wish to speak again?
Yeah, I was just coming back really.
Yeah.
The main contaminant, according to the paper, is within the brown bin. It's people putting paper and card and plastic film, in brackets, bags into the brown bin. And it is education as well, that's a thing. But I think also the question's got to be asked of manufacturers. There's such a bigger number of different plastics and different variants, they can't all be recycled. Pendle doesn't offer a complete blanket recycling of all plastics known to man. I think there's nothing we can do here. I mean, this paper's only for noting anyway, but it's got to come from the top, really. Like all things to do with climate change, it's got to come from the top. And they've got to say, look, you can only sell your goods in X type of plastic that we know to be recyclable. But that's my take on it. But in turn, I wanted clarity on what the contamination means, whether it's food, but it's not. It's actually people putting the wrong stuff in the wrong bin.
Yep. Thank you for that, Jonathan.
Thank you.
I've still got Councillor Lord and Councillor Greaves with their hands up. Do you wish to speak, Dorothy?
I do, yeah.
Please.
The idea that I put to you, I wouldn't like that to just slip by. Well, how can we move that forward and actually make that happen? I mean, I know there's a cost to it, and it may be that somebody maybe spends a month going to all the
well, can I make a suggestion on that?
schools.
Irrespective of what other groups do within Pendle Council, why don't we as a committee ask Lynn to write to the schools within our catchment area, put it to the head teachers as a suggestion?
Yeah.
Would she be open to someone from our department to come and talk to the kids and make a pitch? If we get a satisfactory response, ask the council to come up with some literature and stuff and make the time available to talk to them. How's that?
And I was going to also suggest that, does it have to be somebody from the council? Could it be a volunteer that's really interested in this? You know, I know somebody like Alice would be great at doing this, you know, but there's a lot of people out there that would be willing to do it, and so that will cut down the costs.
I mean, certainly the cabinet holder for that portfolio would be the ideal person to lead on it. I would think.
Yeah. Who is that? Who is that? Who is it?
Don't know.
No, I don't.
It's me.
Oh, it's you. Right. Okay.
You got a job, David?
What I can tell you is a fair portion of the problem is at Farrington, where the two big Murph machines are for segregating. When everything that's in your brown bin gets collected, it goes to Farrington, and then it gets separated so that the glass is separated from the tins, and it's all been done in a machine, and the plastics and everything's separated. And they had an education, LCC had an education centre there. It's quite a big place, and it had all walkways, all carpeted and everything, looking through glass windows, so you could see what was going on inside. And every day it was open for groups of people to go, and probably about half a dozen schools would take a party there, probably the size of a class. And they used to go around this as it was an education centre for that particular purpose. So the kids figure out how to do it. They go home and like Paul said, they said, "Mum, you're putting that in wrong thing." And it worked, and it worked very well. But obviously, to run a centre like that, there is a cost to it. And I think Jeff Driver and whoever else at LCC at the time could see there was a saving in shutting this centre, and they've shut it, and I think they're now paying the cost. But the trouble is, it's down to the Lancashire Waste Partnership to decide on a way forward, and they've been doing it for the last 12 months. But we haven't had a meeting since February because no one can meet. But there is a virtual one set up for November. So whether anything will come from that, I don't know. But another thing that makes it worse, everywhere in Lancashire are stuck with the same rules, because it's Lancashire County Council as we're the collection authority, but Lancashire County Council are the disposal authority, and they decide what plastics can be recycled and what can't. And the daft thing is, they have different rules in Blackburn, because Blackburn don't go to county council because they're a unitary. The same in Blackpool. So you end up with two district council, you know, a unitary next to a district, and they've not got the same rules. And someone half a mile down the road has a different set of rules, and they can recycle different things.
I knew part of what you'd said from previous conversations with yourself. Do you still think there's any mileage in trying to engage with the schools in our area?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yes, but we need to be sure that what we're telling them is what's going to be current for the next 12 months, and that Lancashire Waste Partnerships is not going to keep moving the goalposts.
Right. So could we say then that at the point where you think that it's stable, that at that point we could try and involve the schools? Would that be a way forward?
If we do, I think we should do it Pendle wide, and the person to technically lead on it is Carol Taylor, because she knows that whole system inside out.
Okay. I've got Margaret and Paul wishing to talk. Do you want to come in, Margaret and Paul?
Yeah, it'd be worth bearing in mind that most schools, including primary schools, have an information screen in their reception, and we could put some information on that screen which comes up certain times during the day constantly, so that children are getting the message. If we could just make some short film or whatever it takes to go on these screens, and they were seeing it, some slides, yeah, they were seeing it every day at different times during the day, I think we could get the message across. And we have to be really careful, because like our grandchildren have come under Burnley district, and their brown bin is for grass cuttings and all the garden waste. They have a different, it's completely different to ours. So I get really told off when I'm putting plastics in the brown bin by my grandson, because it's so different, so confusing, and that's what, 7 miles down the road. It's got to be clear, and it's got to be repetitive in the school environment, and I think we could really have quite an impact.
Yeah. I mean, from what you said, exactly what I commented, that children nagging their parents or grandparents is a very effective tool.
Yeah.
I remember in the early days of stopping people smoking, my daughter whinging constantly at me for smoking. You know, in the end, you just give in. It's quicker. You know. Okay, could we ask then, Lynn, perhaps you could have a conversation with Carol, explain what we're hoping to achieve, and perhaps you could then bring something back to the next meeting?
Yes, I can do that.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a long, you know, a long written document. Just have a conversation with her. I think it'd be quicker to explain what we're trying to do and see what she says. All right?
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Everybody happy with that? Dot, do you wish to say anything else? Councillor Lord? No? Okay, that's fine. Okay, then, moving on, if that's okay. Next up is item 12, tree planting. I don't know. Yeah. Councillor Cohen Price, Sarah?
I'm very keen on tree planting, and I see
Good.
that King George V playing field is coming in for the phenomenal number of 750 trees. I think it would be good if there was some sort of community engagement. You know, where are these going exactly? I don't know the answer to that. And then I've got lots of ideas about where other trees can go. I go to the climate emergency working group when it meets in the daytime. My colleagues who are really on it can't go. So I'm happy to put those forward. But I think there needs to be sort of dialogue with residents. I think it would be great to see a bit more outreach into the community.
Okay. Councillor Greaves, Tony?
Yeah. Excuse me. There are people who ought to look at the map if they haven't seen the map and looked at it, showing the suggested parts of the suggested sites in Colne, which belong to this council and which it is being suggested should have trees planted on. The exact area that's shown on King George V is clearly nonsense, because it includes the play area, for example, and various other areas which may or may not be appropriate, some of which have got trees on already. So it needs some careful consideration as to whereabouts on KG5 they are going to be planted. The other way, there's another 6 out vaguely on the way to Foleridge, and by Lake Burwains and by the upper res. Again, it needs some careful looking at on the ground, I think. the idea is that these are places where trees will be planted this winter, and winter is now rushing up on us, obviously. So the other one is in Waterside. No, it's not. It's in Vivry Bridge, isn't it? In fact, several of them are in Vivry Bridge. So I think that ward councillors need to have a good look at these and put their views forward as to exactly where they can go and where they can't go. Part of the stuff by the reservoir might be in Foleridge. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly where the boundary is there. I'm not sure that we can do very much this evening unless people have got specific comments. But it needs some detailed work doing on it before people can go out and actually start planting trees. It's been very difficult because we'd intended to have a really big push this winter, and because of everything that's happened and the way that things have to be run, it's not been possible to do what I had hoped we'd be able to do, which was to get a small group together who would spend a couple of days going around looking at them all and checking them. But there's a danger that it'll all run into the ground and we won't get anything done this winter unless a bit of ump is put behind it. I suppose I ought to do something about that. But there's no point putting ump behind pieces of land which aren't suitable. And Councillor Coburn-Price says she's got some further ideas. Are these on council-owned land, or are they on land owned by other people? The problem with land owned by other people is that it takes some time to do the negotiating and agree who's going to do any maintenance afterwards and all the rest of it.
I very much suspect that it's LCC land that I'm looking at.
Well, and we know where it is.
So, you know where Dave Fishwick's minibus emporium is on that corner? Behind there is an LCC facility. It's opposite Empress Mill, and it's just a bit bleak. And even if they were just along the sides, it would just look so much nicer as you travel through North Valley. And then on the other side of the road, there are generous verges before you come to St Stephen's Way. And I think not large trees, obviously, but there are a couple of trees. It might be possible to have some cherries or some horn. I've got various little ideas. I'll happily email you.
Okay. All the trees on the land in front of St Stephen's Way were paid for by Colne Rotary Club in the days of Colne Borough Council, so that's some time ago, which is why they're now big trees. On the other side, the land immediately behind Fishwicks is Park School playing field land, or was, and I'm not exactly sure what the position is with that land now. Park School clearly do not use it, and I've been aware of discussions, not really been involved, over the years as to why they didn't use it. I think they used to more in the past. But that
I think it's their forest school now. I think it's their forest school, part of it. Sorry.
Are they doing something with it?
Yeah, it's their forest school.
They want some trees to plant, then we can help out there.
Yeah.
That would be sensible. And further on, where the youth club building is, I agree that there's land there that could be trees. Some of us were encouraging Lancashire County Council, if they were closing down the youth club and not using the premises any longer. I'm not quite sure. I think the youth service still uses the premises for office purposes or something like that, but there's no youth club there. So if they were going to dispose of it, some of us were encouraging them to put housing on there and make some money for the county council and help us with the housing numbers. But I don't think the county listen to people around here anyway, whoever they are. That's my experience over many years. But I think that perhaps some discussions could take place with the school and with the county council about land on that side, certainly of North Valley Road. And if it's possible to plant some street trees, some more street trees, on the other side, then I think that is something we can look at. Yes. So can we make a note of that and take it back to the people who are doing this?
Okay, I've got Councillor Nixon and then Neil Watson has got his hand up. So, Jonathan?
Thank you. Yeah, just to follow up on the Park Primary, it's definitely actively used because they've fenced it off with Paladin fence, which is not a temporary thing. It's completely secure, permanent green well mesh fencing. So they're definitely doing something with it. And I know that they use the rest of the playing field for when it's sports day. And it's only really sports day once a year, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
So it would be great if we could find the answer to that strange question about who owns that land and what the plans are for it. I mean, it would it would make ideal housing land because it's flat, completely flat, but it's not. We need to know who owns the land and what the intention is. I did try and find out a few years ago, but it's very, very difficult trying to get anything out of people like Lancashire County Council. And the same applies to Together Housing as well, because they own a little bit of land around there too. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Neil, Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Chairman. Just briefly, Chairman, I don't want to put. I think I'm a big supporter of planting trees where we can, but we need also to have an eye on. There is a limited budget with this. We're not going to cover significant amounts of Pendle with this, but I agree with Councillor Greaves. The bits of land that we identify, there has to be some form of agreement as to where the planting goes, and I'll ask Lee Johnson to do that. But Chairman, we're not going to be able to cover great swathes with the amount of funding we have. Chairman, the other side of this, there are limitations on how the funding can be used. For example, the Urban Tree Challenge can only be on publicly accessible land. So if it's fenced off or it's counties and the public can't get to it, then you can't use the Urban Tree Challenge funding. And Chairman, the countryside stewardship has to be land that you then set aside for the trees, and you have to be the landowner for that. So we can't engage other parties who own land to plant on those, because you have to be the owner to participate. Chairman, what I would suggest is, I'll get Lee to sorry. I'll get Lee to contact the councils in the various wards where these the suggested planting is, and if you've any other suggestions, I'll ask Lee to look into those, such as the county council's land that has just been referred to. But Chairman, we do wish to get on with this this winter, and obviously we don't want to tie ourselves up too much with it. Otherwise, like Councillor Greaves says, we'll be talking about it next year.
Yeah. Get the trees in the ground. That's the idea, isn't it? Are we all happy with that? Has anybody else got anything burning they wish to say?
Yeah, I'd just like to say about the forest school. I've actually visited the forest school last year because one of my grandsons attended Park Primary, and it's extremely impressive what they've done down there. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on now. Councillor Nixon, you got your hand up. Is any more on trees?
No, sorry, I'll take it down.
Okay, thanks
That's
for that.
my hand, not the tree.
Righto, moving on then. Unlucky for some, item 13, reopening of town centres just before they're about to be shut down again. Any comments? No. Okay. So item 14, which is the District Working Group Community Safety Partnership, I'll include the police matters that we skimmed over at the beginning of the meeting. So if anyone has any comments, so it's item 5 and 14 together. I take it there's still no sign of the PCSO, Lynn?
Yeah, that's correct. There's no
Okay.
sign.
Okay. So, councillors, Councillor Lord.
Are we on police matters? You're doing police
Yes,
matters?
we are. Yeah.
Yeah. It was mentioned last night about speeding down Derby Street. This afternoon I was speaking to a Derby Street resident about an entirely different matter, but I asked him about the speeding. He said it's crazy. So obviously it's still going on. And he did point out, and it's not relevant to this committee now because it's gone, but the 20-mile-an-hour signs that they put up some years ago, and he mentioned this, at a cost of thousands and thousands of pounds, even, and I haven't thought about this, even the top of River Street, where it's a cul-de-sac. But anyway, just to tell everybody who was concerned about that, I think Sarah mentioned it last night, the State Partnership, and he says it's the, I mean, as I say again, I don't drive, so I don't get it. I really don't get it. It's a shortcut to the roundabout at the bottom. That's what Derby Street he thinks is used for. So I just thought I'd throw that in.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Any comments? Okay, next up then is environmental blight. Do I have any questions or comments? Councillor Sarah?
Perhaps Neil Watson could tell us whether he's been successful in replacing our enforcement officer.
Chairman, we interviewed today. We've scored, and there was, to be honest with you, there were three particularly very good candidates. A solicitor, a policeman, etc. have applied. So there's some highly qualified people. So we're hoping we will. I won't tell you the names, obviously, but we'll hopefully offer the job tomorrow to the candidate that's been successful and replace from there.
Oh, that's brilliant news. I have written a couple of times. I know you're desperately busy, but it hasn't made it to this list. It's a shop front that really concerns me in the conservation area. It unfortunately looks to me, I am dyslexic, like coked up, and it's got an epilepsy-inducing flashing light sequence that goes all day and night. And I even sent a video to the team because actually seeing it just as a photograph doesn't begin to encapsulate the true horror, or in my view, of this particular shop. And I would certainly think that it is in contravention, and I would like it to be investigated, if at all possible, ASAP.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can I just ask, where is that? Where is that, Sarah? Where is that?
It's exactly opposite Tubbs.
All right, yeah.
You got that, Neil, did you?
Yeah, yes, Chairman. So I was unmuting. Yes, I did.
Yep, okay. So I've got nobody else's hand up, so I'm going to move on now. So we've got a couple of outstanding items. I don't know whether anyone's got anything to say on that. Land off Leigh Street, Colne, I think that's been discussed at length before. Okay then, so to get on to item 18, we need to exclude the public and press due to the confidentiality of this item. So Lynn, could you let me know once we're disconnected, and I would say good night to any members of the public that might be listening or watching.
Yeah, if you could just confirm that you all agree that the public and press be excluded.
Anybody disagree with that, please show your hand or speak. Jonathan?
Agree, but I'm not going to argue. It's all.
Yeah, as per Tony agrees, I don't disagree with it, but nothing we can do.
Okay,